Bon lecture! Hello everyone! And welcome! We're finally getting back to... Right, I forgot my cursor shows up if I do that. I forgot my cursor shows up if I do that. Oh boy. Well, it's a good thing it's just a little animated cursor of a little purple spotted harvest moon cow and not anything like embarrassing or anything. Can you tell that I like cows? Alright. What should we do first? Let's do something that could be really cute. You'd whiled away the morning, doing whatever struck your fancy, and now you were recharging with lunch. Nothing on the horizon, you were free to spend as much or as little time on your plate as you wanted. It was while you were thinking on all the possibilities for your afternoon that your mom approached you.
Hi.
Hi, Diana. You okay? Mouth full, you nodded in reply. To your surprise, they both sat with you at the table. Based on the time, you had wondered if they were joining you for a meal, but neither of them brought anything.
Alright.
Great, we wanted to have a little chat with you. The qualifier little did nothing to downplay the situation. Your chewing slowed as your eyes widened, looking from one parent to the other. Anything that required both of them to talk to you must be something big. One second, I did not hydrate before starting the stream, which is a bad idea. Much better. Now, if only I didn't have such a stuffy nostril right now. Anyway. Set my viral down there. It was unsettling. You didn't like being the only one not knowing what was going on. Stomach churning, you waited for them to fill you in.
There.
Aw, don't look so worried. It's nothing scary, promise. There's a soiree at the Cypress tomorrow night. Your mom and I are going. The Cypress was the country club your moms were part of, and where Elizabeth played golf. It seemed like every other month they had some event or another, all with fancy names like soiree. Chewing your lip, you wondered what this had to do with you. Mom chuckled at your poorly concealed reaction. Weighing in, Ma took your hand and squeezed it. We decided to make you the night a bit special. Elizabeth's going to be allowed to stay at home fully alone for the first time.
Sorry.
You'll still be coming to the party with us. It's Elizabeth's night to party with no family around, not yours. Sorry. You've got to wait a couple more years. You were disappointed by the news. Crossing your arms over your chest, you leaned back in your seat. So much for the big talk, this was all about Elizabeth. Don't worry, we're not done yet. There's something in this for you. You were not yet convinced, but you gave your moms the benefit of the doubt and listened. Your parents shared a look across the table. You cleared your throat, reminding them that you were waiting. They couldn't drop such hints and then turn coy when the conversation was about to get good.
Well?
Since it's a pretty fancy party that's still chaperoned, and attendees are allowed to bring a guest, we thought it might be a nice opportunity for you to invite someone yourself as a date, if you want. Your eyes widened as the words sunk in. Your mom's continued, and it was a struggle to keep up. Even though we'll be at the party too, you don't need to worry about us getting in your way. You'll be free to eat, dance, and enjoy the music as you see fit. But no leaving the property. Ma nodded at Mom's interjection.
Isn't that great?
Yes, as long as you don't leave the party. And if you'd rather bring just a friend, that's a-okay too. That's amazing! Time to make a kissy face with Cove! You must have lit up because your parents shared an amused look again.
Don't worry about it.
The soiree isn't until tomorrow, so you've got time. Just let us know your plans before we're heading out. And that's all. We'll leave you to your lunch now. Your moms rose from their chairs in unison, disappearing to another part of the house. You barely noticed their departure. All you could think of was what just happened. The remnants of your lunch stared up at you from your plate. Eat me! Eat me! You were glad to go back to eating. You wolfed down the rest of your food, clearing your plate as you thought about how you'd like to spend tomorrow evening. Even though you'd relocated to your bedroom, your head was stuck on the conversation that had unfolded at the dining table downstairs. You knew that you wanted to be a date. Date Cove, date Cove, date Cove, date Cove! Blah! The idea of dating Cove has caused my hair to move on its own. The prospect of having your first date made it impossible to sit still. You couldn't help but jiggle your foot as you laid on your bed, contemplating the possibility. I still have my foot jiggle on its own. And I'm fucking 30. That night being a date would mean actually asking someone out. Little you knew of that came from what you'd seen on TV and movies, and what you'd heard about from kids at school. Your moms hadn't even entertained the idea of you dating until now. You went over possible words and phrases in your head, setting up scenarios and smooth segues before tearing them down and trying something else. You realized that you'd been mentally scripting Cove as the one you were asking. It had been his name repeating inside your mind, his face lighting up as you invited him to join you. You buried your face in your pillow, not wanting to continue after noticing. Your cheeks felt like they were burning, so naturally you tried to smother them with the soft pillow. There was no one to see your embarrassment, but you felt it keenly all the same. It was almost ridiculous how Cove always made you feel things like this, and there was seemingly nothing that could be done to prevent it. Sighing, you shifted position on the bed, resting your arms on the windowsill. A flock of birds caught your eye and led your gaze as they crossed the sky. You watched the birds grow smaller and less distinct until they disappeared from sight. Like the snap of a hypnotist's fingers, you were released from the trance and left with a goal of your own. You were going to take a walk. You ambled through the familiar streets of your neighborhood, picking your path at whim. It was as quiet as ever, with tourists choosing to congregate in the shopping area near the beach rather than venture into the sleepy residential zones. You continued down the road and soon found yourself at the shore. The fresh, salty air hit you first, rolling to meet you over the grassy dunes that tickled your legs, followed by the familiar view of the sea stretching out across the horizon. You came to a halt. A lone figure was standing in the ocean, the water reaching up to his knees. Though he had his back to you, you recognized the familiar silhouette as Cove's. It made sense that you'd find him here. He always was in his element by the sea. You had no idea if he heard your arrival or it was a coincidence, but he looked over his shoulder. Your eyes met. You nervously headed closer. Your feet kept trying to trip you up in your eagerness to reach Cove, but you managed to keep from falling over and making a fool of yourself. Cove smiled at you, bathed in the soft light of the afternoon sun, with his hair gently tousled by the sea breeze. He looked especially charming. He then fully turned around and began to wade through the water over to the shore. Oh, I should turn the game volume down. One sec, let me just... There we go. That should be a lot easier to hear me now. I forgot to adjust the volume settings again after my collab with Buck on Tuesday. The previous one, not the upcoming one, obviously. the more recent previous one, not the previous one from last week. Bah. Blushy. You hoped he took his time to come over. You were nervous about this? Instead of standing at the shore, you felt like you were on the edge of a cliff. The question of whether to invite him, and if so, in what fashion, was in front of you. Between leaping into a world unknown or enjoying the safety of the familiar.
Diana.
Hey Diana, are you free right now? Not exactly. My moms are taking me to a soiree tomorrow at the country club. You winced at your abrupt transition to the topic and hoped the Cove wouldn't mind. You've been known to dive into new and unconnected topics in the middle of conversation, after all. Soiree, huh? Sounds exciting? He was smiling politely, but you could tell that your outing mention hadn't sparked much interest. Your heart, which had lodged itself somewhere in your throat when you'd spotted him, dropped. Aww. You stared at him, weighing your options. Cove tilted his head curiously as he fumbled what to say next. Who better to invite on your first real date than Cove, the only person who could make you giddy with just a smile? Come on, game. But you were afraid he'd think it was boring, or worse, wouldn't want to go with you as a date. Don't make me pick. Yourself to make it. Closing your clammy fists, you swallowed and tried to conjure up the right words. Cove continued to watch you expectantly. Oh no. It might have been easier to do this right now if he was wearing something other than just a swimsuit. Diana? Do you want to go on a date with me? The words stumbled from your mouth. It was a miracle that they were all in the right order. Caught off guard, he lifted his hands in front of his chest out of surprise. Then he packed them down into a cross over his chest. He twisted his face to the side, no longer able to meet your eyes. He still couldn't hide the flush on his cheeks.
Oh my god.
Are you serious? I'm as serious as something serious. It's very serious, is what I'm saying. His lips were pressed tightly together, preventing any more words from slipping out. You could tell that he was nervous, but that was always easy to pick up on with him. After another moment, he inclined his head, dipping it in a nod so slight you might have missed it had you been able to tear your eyes from him. Oh, the bottom two options. Thank you. You're welcome. Really? Cove closed his eyes, trapped in an awkward pose. He was gripping his arms so tightly that the skin around his knuckles was fully taut. Are you okay? Cove exhaled at last, letting out a sigh that stretched into another tense silence. His stance loosened, his arms stayed crossed over his chest, but he was no longer clutching them like a shield. You didn't want to be the one to break the quiet. Thanks, Diana. I guess I'm gonna have to tell my dad and mom, too. Right. I've gotta let my moms know you're going. Can you come with me? Yeah. It was a relief that he did thought enough to manage speech again. You hoped that by the time you got to your house, he'd be able to manage full sentences once more. Cove went to where he discarded his things in the sand, taking a shirt over his head and slipping on a pair of shoes before joining you and setting off home. The two of you stepped inside the front door of your house. It was an action you'd taken together countless times, but your stomach had never churned quite like this on previous occasions. Excuse me. At the sound of the door opening, your mom poked her head into the hall.
Hello.
Ah, Cove, it's you. What a surprise. She chuckled at her own joke. Cove was always there, and she knew how close the two of you were. Bringing anyone other than him back would have been an actual surprise. Hi, Mrs. Jolly. Nice to see you. So I take it Cove's going to be our guest for tomorrow night? Yep. And what kind of outing will it be? Her voice was hesitant but serious. Cove ducked his head down reflexively. You knew that you figured out what she was driving at. You couldn't bring yourself to speak. Mom interpreted your mutual silence and nodded in understanding. She wore a wispy smile. Ma's going to be thrilled about this. Cove tilted his head back up, just slightly. He peeked through the longer strands of his hair. Just her, Mrs. Shelley? Even if you'd not been able to see his wide, worried eyes, you'd have heard the anxiety in his voice. Your mom sighed and patted him on the arm. Oh, Cove, you're a great kid. Most parents hope that their kid meets such a special person someday. She glanced aside, a wry expression on her face. Someday is the real key word there. She turned back to you both. But you just had to move in right across the street at 8 years old. Mom crouched down, shaking her head and put a hand on each of Cove's shoulders. Cove, I hope you're planning on me being very good to Diana. And I'm not just talking about tomorrow. No! Mom! No! I want to die! Ah! She nudged him playfully on the cheek with a fist. Cove, who had been blushing when all this began, was now as red as an heirloom tomato. I'm sorry. What? What does that mean? Who treats a tomato as an heirloom? I really hope that's just an expression I'm not familiar with. Oh, yeah, I was, well? You don't have to worry, Cove's definitely going to be good to me. There was a teasing tone to your voice. Between you and your mom, Cove was defenseless. Yay! He didn't speak further. His eyes locked down on his shuffling feet as he rubbed the scar on his arm. The redness remained intact. Okay, we've put Cove through the ringer enough. The big day isn't even here yet. You laughed and nodded along. There was still plenty of time to have fun. I'll give your folks a call and get everything squared away. She headed off to get the phone, leaving the two of you alone. Cove's eyes darted to you, and he shot you a quick, delicate smile before staring at the ground again. Excuse me. I'm gonna go across the street. Talk to my parents. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye, Cove. He retreated from your home's entryway without another word. And the rest of the afternoon passed by just like that. Back in your room, your mind was alight with visions of tomorrow night. Soiree was something, but not nearly as excited as going on your first date. You were thrilled that Cove had actually said yes. That he was your genuine date to a party. You hugged your knees to your chest, overawed by the thought the night couldn't come soon enough. The evening of the soiree had arrived, the daylight hours having slipped away in a blur. Up in your room, you were getting ready for the big event. That was your intention, at least, but you hadn't settled on an outfit. Stationed in front of your wardrobe, you scanned over the clothing you had at your disposal. Though Ma had mentioned this event was a bit dressier than a normal get-together, you didn't necessarily have to comply. You wondered how Cove might feel about your outfit. You couldn't help but consider how he would respond to the way you were dressed. Would he like seeing you dress all fancy, or would it reinforce the weirdness of the situation? Your mind drifted across the street. Was Cove going through these same steps right now, staring at his wardrobe and trying to decide what to wear? You had no idea if he would dress up for the occasion himself, or if he'd wear his usual attire. It would be so much easier if you knew what he was going to do. You wanted him to see you in a new light. You looked for something formal. You attempted to decide between the nicer pieces in your wardrobe, the ones that had rarely had a chance to come out. You decided to dress formally because... You were dressing to impress. Fashion was a competitive sport, just like the golf tournaments the club hosted. You might not walk out with a trophy at the end, but you still had every intention of winning. You decided to wear a dress. The one you picked was light and had sheen. The silky material seemed to glide through your fingers as you took it from the wardrobe. It was a perfect fit for a summer evening party. You began to get dressed, your fingers working stiff zips and awkward fastenings. It felt different against your skin, reminding you with every movement that you were dressed up. Whatever happened tonight, you were pleased that you got the opportunity to wear this. Now dressed, you gave yourself a final glance over before heading downstairs, ready to head out. So when I saw the dress to impress option, I thought it meant dress to impress Cove. Because I may have a bit of one-track mind at times. You know, when I'm not being ADHD. You found your moms already waiting in the living room. They were putting the finishing touches on their outfits. Ma strapping her heel into a stiletto shoe, and Mom trying to fasten a bracelet, single-handed. Ah, those are such pretty outfits. Those are such good outfits. I wish I had clothes that looked that pretty. Sadly, it's kind of impossible for a gal my size. Like, look at me. They looked up as you entered. Aw, Diana, you look so nice. Don't you think, Pam?
Thanks.
Thanks for dressing up, Diana. I hope the party will be prepared for your arrival. You look sharp. Mom was still struggling with the bracelet. You lent a hand, literally, by taking one side and holding it as she secured the clasp. Thanks, kiddo. Mom then glanced over at the clock on the wall. Seeing where the hands were pointing, a frown creased her face. Excuse me. When's Cove going to be here? Do you know? Soon, probably. Mom pursed her lips as she stared at the hands ticking by on the clock. Alright, if he's not here in 5, I'll give his house a call. I was a little bit... Friggin'! What is wrong with me today? Elizabeth flittered down the stairs. Her eyes narrowed.
What?
You're still here. Yes, but not for much longer, hopefully. Wait, I know you're excited, but we haven't even said goodbye, and I want to go over how things are going to play out. Elizabeth sighed as Mom began listing the rules, ticking them off on her fingers. No ordering takeout or other deliveries. You can't have anyone else come over. She nodded, resigned to her fate, listening to a set of rules she could predict without so much as a glance at a crystal ball. If anything happens, you can call us or go across the street to the Holdens. Keep the noise down. This house might be empty, but there are people all around in the neighborhood. Usual house rules still apply. Don't do anything you wouldn't do if we were here.
Alright.
And we'll be back no later than 11:30. But we'll call if there are any issues, so don't tie up the phone line all night. Right, all done. Can you go now? Ma strode over and swept Elizabeth up in a hug. Your sister let out a small noise, her eyes widening, and suddenly looked much less like the smug teenager she acted like. You're such a big girl now. I still can't believe it. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. This wasn't the quick departure that she'd been hoping for. Any chance of it ending soon vanished as Mom joined in the hug. Navik and I, it feels like it was only yesterday that Elizabeth groaned, trying to cut the reminiscing off without success. You joined in the hug. Mom and Ma held out their arms to you as you approached, welcoming you into the hug. Elizabeth whined, eager for this to come to an end already.
Jeez.
Can you all just go, jeez? Your family disentangled from the hug in time to catch the doorbell ringing. Ooh, the guest of honor is here. She raced over to the door. As Ma predicted, Cove had arrived, and he was ushered inside.
Nice.
You look very nice, Cove. Oh, thanks. He looked around the room, searching for a way out of that conversation before his eyes met yours. Cove pulled his face into a smile. As you reciprocated, the tension in his face faded away. You watched him taking in your outfit, swallowing and grinning at you again. Hi, Diana. Hi, Cove.
It's nice.
You look really nice tonight. I'm glad we got to do this. Going to a place dressed up, I mean. His words took you by surprise, but after the earlier worries about your appearance, they were a welcome balm for your nerves. You attempted to control the grin spreading across your face. Small statement had made a big impact. You look wonderful. Cove held his arms tight against his body, shielding himself from such an overt declaration of approval. Thank you. Now that Mom had finished reiterating the rules to Elizabeth, who had scurried off to the sanctuary of her room, she came over to greet Cove. Hi, Cove. Nice to have you along for the ride. Thank you for letting me come.
You're welcome.
It's no trouble. You're always welcome. Mom's eyebrows rose in thin lines of concern. Let's all remember that for the foreseeable future, we'll be neighbors who have to see each other every day.
Yeah.
Cove looked helplessly at your mom. Luckily, Ma came over and rescued him. Mom's the cautious sort, sweetie. You don't need to look so worried. Mom smiled reassuringly. She didn't intend to scare him. Ma laid a hand on her shoulder. We should get to the car. There's nothing fashionable about being late. As you made to follow your mom's, Cove held out a hand. Pausing, you waited for an explanation. He wilted under the force of your attention, letting out a long sigh. Both my dad and my mom insisted that since this is he paused, pushing his hair back from his burning face, and forced himself to continue. It's a date and kind of a fancy party. I need to bring something for you for inviting me. The conclusion of the story caught you by surprise. You blinked, unsure if you slacked too much on your own preparations for tonight. You got me a present?
That's,
Not really, just this. Cove reached behind himself to take something out of a back pocket. His hand returned to view, with him holding a single small white poppy by the stem. Cove threw his gaze to the floor, shyly inching his hand closer to you. Ooh. It's my favorite. Cove audibly sighed in relief. You got the impression he had been stressing over the flower he chose. I wasn't positive, though. I thought it would be... I'm sorry I didn't get you anything. It's no big deal. I mean, like I said, you're already the one who invited me. I only get to go because of you. Then you accepted the flower from him. Cove straightened himself out in response. So, we're gonna be late if we keep standing here. Right, we better hurry. You pulled up at the country club. The sun had sunk deep into the horizon, the last of its light sleepily warming the oncoming night. Your moms led the way to the space around the back, where the event was being held. The place had been transformed through decoration with smart tablecloths and elegant ribbons contributing to a festive atmosphere. Musicians dressed in matching black and white were setting up their instruments and flicking through pages of sheet music. And, as promised, there was a table covered in plates of carefully prepared food. Destination reached, your parents landed on you and Cove. Things haven't kicked off yet, but don't let that stop you from enjoying yourselves.
Have fun.
We'll be around if you need us.
See you later.
Bye. You waved your moms off. Once they'd retreated a distance away, you found him watching you expectantly. What now? It wasn't a question, but a plea for help. You could tell that he definitely didn't know what to do with himself in this situation. We'll have to wait for some things to start, like the band, but there's stuff going on already. Cove perked up at that.
really?
Oh, do you want to do any of those? Whatever they are? Snack, 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 everybody. We can go eat some food now, even if the music hasn't started.
Oh?
That's okay, it's not too soon. I knew you'd come just for the free food. I did not. The two of you wandered over to the refreshment table. With it being early in the night, it had barely been touched, and the plates were nearly as pristine as when they left the kitchens. The offerings were all tiny and bite-sized, ready to be picked up and sampled. It was immediately apparent that there was plenty to choose from. Just from the level of care with which it was presented, it was clear that this was fancy stuff. Cove stared at one plate, then another, confused.
Maybe?
I think I know some of this? And only some of it is any good. You examined the table like a detective at a crime scene. That one is so sour your tongue will shrivel up. That looks like chocolate, and it is, mostly. What else is it? Nasty. Ko's eyes were wide as you guided him through what was on offer. It made you feel sophisticated. Cove squared his shoulders as if gearing up for a march. His stance was familiar from all the times he'd seen him preparing for some sporting event. I'm gonna try it. He picked up a plate and took one appetizer, then another, and another. Soon he realized he was taking one of every single type. Brave boy. You're taking everything? Uh-huh. Why not? I'm a picky eater, in spite of my size. As though she liked the food on offer, you knew your own limits and preferences. Cove nibbled his way through everything the Cypress had. The results of his endeavor were mixed. He was revolted by some of the things he tried, openly screwing up his face and rushing to find a drink to wash the taste away. Yet these bad experiences didn't stop him from plowing on, moving on to the next snack with an open mind. Brave boy. There were some foods he was neutral about, dismissing them with a shrug, but best of all were his reactions when he stumbled across something good. Every time he caught him by surprise, his expression morphing from wary curiosity to skeptical interest before making way for astonished enjoyment. Aw, look at that doofy smile! Regardless of how he felt about what he was currently eating, you could tell he was having a good time just by, being free to eat whatever he laid his eyes on. You were satisfied with the limited selection you had. After going through a round of sampling, normally I'd keep eating, but like, at things where I don't see all that much that appeals to me, I genuinely don't eat as much. Just generally. He moved on to something else. I don't know if there's anyone worth introducing him to, but I know most of these people because I've been needed brought here a lot over the years. You can meet them. Sure. Doesn't matter if you make a good impression or not. They'll be curious about you no matter what. You begging for him to follow you and meet the other guests. Most of the attendees skewed significantly older or considerably younger than the two of you, with only a few people around your age. Oh! Well, that's good. Naturally, Cove greeted them with his easy warmth. Not that there weren't any difficulties. Sorry, could you repeat your name? It's Cove. Cove? They rolled the word over their tongues, clearly surprised. How unusual, but lovely, of course. As you'd expected, there was interest in who you brought to the party and what your relationship with him was. Wink wonk. Diana, good to see you. This is your date? Well, yes. The resulting coos from the group made it difficult to keep a straight face. Still, some people focus on the important thing, how you are dressed. Don't you look snappy in that outfit? You've scrubbed up well. With basic niceties taken care of, I'm not very sociable, IRL. Take a seat. We should pick out a table. Okay. We found a place to sit at the edge of the party area, where it was quieter with fewer people bustling around. That sounds like where I usually sit at these types of events. You pulled out a chair and sat down. Cove, already seated, was stretching. These clothes are kind of uncomfortable. He flexed an arm at the elbow, frowning before twisting it back behind him. Yeah? My arms can't move the same as normal, like I'm gonna rip it if I do anything. I mean, I would assume that I'm wearing a dress that does not have sleeves, because that's the kind I like. My neck is stiff all of a sudden. Ah. I don't mind it. That's cool. I might not either if it didn't pull at me every 5 seconds. He toyed with one cuff of his shirt, wedging a finger between the fabric and his skin. Watching him struggle against his clothes, he thought back to how excuse me. He thought back to how apprehensive you'd been about selecting your outfit. I mean, I had an easy time deciding, but apparently that's not an option for me. I had a really hard time choosing what I was going to wear. You did? I can't see you looking bad no matter what, but I know what you mean. Cove breezed past the high praise he'd casually given and looked forlornly down at his outfit. I felt really weird doing something for this too. Did your mom tell you what to wear? No. Ma just told me it was a fancy sort of thing. That's nice. He settled down in his seat, just a bit. Now that you had a spot of your own, you stayed chatting with Cove at the table. In no time at all, the sun was set in full. The lights faded in, and the opening notes of the band's first song rang out. You and Cove stopped what you were doing, turning to contemplate the party that had been steadily unfurling while you were distracted. Excuse me. It was much busier now, both in terms of people and activity. The first steps were taken onto the dance floor, some tentative, others eager. And even if the band hadn't been playing, the constant level of chatter would have assured that it wasn't a quiet night. With the party now fully in swing, your options had increased. Oh, sorry about that. Dance, 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 dance. I'd like to dance with you, if that's okay. Really? He blurred the word out without thinking, then clammed a hand over his mouth before anything else could slip out. Really? Cove sucked in a deep breath as if trying to inhale confidence as well as oxygen into his lungs. He gave a single serious nod before holding a trembling hand out towards you. You felt nervous right along with him. Taking a steadying breath, you remind yourself that nothing here could hurt you. Physically, at any rate. This train of thought was leading you down tunnels of potential embarrassment, so you tried to keep your mind on the moment. You took Cove's outstretched hand. His skin was hot and damp, but yours was probably no better. You squeezed it, giving him an empathetic smile, and together you carefully made your way to the dance floor. You took your places, standing before each other, hands still entwined. Frowning, Cove assessed the situation, trying to puzzle it out like a math problem before putting his remaining free hand on your shoulder. I think the guy is supposed to put his hand on the gal's waist, but I don't know. I don't actually know anything about fancy dancing. You repositioned his hand to your waist. Gently, you took his hand from your shoulder and moved it lower down for the dance. His eyes shook at the touch. From how tense his arm was, you knew Cove was fighting an urge to pull away. But ultimately, he smiled shyly at you, and his grip on your other hand tightened. You were eye to eye with him now. At this distance, there was little else to look at, other than those aquamarine irises. The music had begun. You both moved eagerly, trying to catch up to it, but your feet took you in opposite directions. Ah! Fumbling, the two of you shuffled from side to side, attempting to mirror each other's movements, but always winding up at odds. It was difficult. Cove was struggling just coordinating his own limbs to the rhythm, let alone matching your movements. When Cove's foot ghosted over yours, it was decided it'd be safest for everyone if you simply swayed to the tune. You rooted yourself to the floor, your torso gently moving to the silence. Gratefully, Cove kept his movements small and subtle in the same way. All was fine for a little while. You weren't going to win any dancing accolades with Cove, but that didn't matter when you were treasuring just being so close to him. Aww. Cove stepped out of sync with the music, knocking against you. He flinched back, nearly pulling you over in the process. You took a hand from him and held it up, halting proceedings so you could both get your bearings once more. Something that happens later makes that hilarious. You know what? Just so I can see if this will influence that in any way, I'm signing you up for dance lessons. Instead of laughing, Cove looked off. I don't really want to. Then he took Cove's hand once more and gingerly resumed swaying to the music. Aww. I didn't mean to hurt his feelings. No. Cove reluctantly followed suit, his steps small and apprehensive. He mumbled something quietly. This is a long song. You weren't sure how to take that, whether it meant that something was wrong, or if Cove didn't really like dancing, or if he didn't like dancing with you specifically. It made the last couple of minutes of the song uncomfortable, as he weighed up what to do and what to say to Cove. When the musicians laid their instruments down, Cove dropped your hands as if they were burning him. He trailed off the dance floor as quickly as he could without breaking into an outright run. Oh, no. In truth, you bet even that was faster than most people here could manage. You had difficulty tailing him before he could get lost in the crowd. When he got up, he said nothing. You tried to get him into doing something else, but eliciting anything from him now was impossible. You focused over Cove, wondering how he was finding the evening. He sighed. It was so quiet and unobtrusive that you wouldn't have caught it if you hadn't been watching him. His gaze was roaming. With how far away his eyes seemed, whatever he was searching for couldn't be found at this party. He turned to face you before you could say anything. I want to sit down. You can do that. Cove began to move and you instinctively followed him. Yet instead of taking a seat at one of the many free tables you expected, Cove ignored them as he purposely strode out of the party area. Where are you going? Your call didn't seem to register with him as he continued forward, out onto the greens of the golf course. You went after him, trying to watch out for uneven ground underfoot. Claws of earth dislodging in games of golf were perfect for snatching unwary feet, even in daylight. Yeah. Up ahead, Cove didn't appear to have any difficulty traversing the uneven land. Oh. He settled down on one of the little hills of the golf course. You joined him, still unsure over what was going on. What's wrong? Cove started as if he'd acted on instinct, and your question had brought him around to reality again.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. And it's okay. You can go back to the party. You didn't budge from your spot. From here, the party was just a glowing haze in the distance. You didn't want to leave him behind. I'm not going to leave you here. And I'm not going to drag you back if you don't want to. Oh, thanks. Now that he was more at ease, you tried to find out what had caused him to take flight in the first place. Even thinking the words pained you, but you had to know the answer. going to the party with me make you uncomfortable? Logically, you knew that the issue was likely the activity rather than your company. Your heart strained with the worry that you'd been at fault, though. Was it because I made you dance? His abrupt departure from that was another indicator that something had gone awry.
What?
No. He shook his head emphatically. It's not anything I did tonight. It's definitely not anything you did either. Relief overcame you. Excuse me. You suspected as much, but with this being your very first date, it was hard to be sure. Cove attempted to fill in the gaps of understanding. I don't want to think about going back into the party. I just feel ready to go home. Should I get my mom's? I don't want to ruin their night. Cove sat there quietly, gazing out into the shadowy hills and valleys of the golf course. A comfortably warm wind rustled between you, tussling his hair. It was so far away from the hubbub of the party, you could even make out into the quiet of crickets chirping. The quiet sound of crickets chirping. This is kind of like how we first met. Do you remember? How could I forget? You'd always liked him, even from that very first day. It's so weird. That was a long time ago now. You had thought back to the day when Nico first arrived in the neighborhood. He had run away from Mr. Holden, taking solace in the hills behind your house. That had been late, too, on a clear night like today. Looking at the sky, you wondered if the stars were looking down, that were looking down were the same ones as then. I mean, technically, I guess. Cove's face was brighter, though you could still see signs of the strain that had caused him to depart from the soiree. When he first sat down, he had curled up like a pill bug, hunched over, knees pressed to his chest and arms wrapped up around them. He'd unwound as you'd been talking, straining up, his hands free to gesticulate. It was as though the two of you had constructed your own little world away from everything else, and he was beginning to perk up. Ooh, excuse me. The small smile that had crept onto his face was quickly ushered away by a frown. I can't believe I'm on a date. Cove followed up on the statement before you could react. He spoke in a distinctly whispered tone, as though you were the only one in the world who he could share these words with. After I said I wanted to come, I wanted to take it back. Not because I really didn't want to do it, but because, I don't know. It seemed like a big deal. It made me feel bad somehow. I started feeling like I couldn't do it, even though I just wanted to do it. I guess it was sort of like having to give a presentation in front of the class. Even though it was just me and you doing something like we always do. He charged on, his words streaming out. I still could do it because the thing about not being there and you and what you might think if I did take it back made me feel way worse than whatever else I felt.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Diana. I'm sorry I can't deal with stuff like this and have to make everything so complicated. You didn't have to come. You could have told me. After all of this, you've just been feeling bad. Why do you put both of you... No. Usually don't go back on decisions, but... I'm sorry it made you feel bad. I didn't interpret that previous decision that I'd made and went back on the correct way. You then leaned against him. It always made you feel secure to lean against Cove, having him support you in the most literal of senses. Maybe he felt the same way. He finally moved his head to look you straight on, eyes meeting yours.
Diana.
Thanks for inviting me, Diana. You stared back at him, not comprehending. But didn't it make you feel bad?
Yeah.
Oh. Hello, Senpai don't give a fuck. Clever. Clever. It's cheeky. I like it.
Sunpaid Gave has joined the library.
Senpaid gave. 130. What? Ah. When did? What? When did I get that high? Well, thank you. I'm honestly kind of flabbergasted. I wasn't expecting to even make it to 50, let alone 100. Anyway, I should keep reading. Yeah, it did. When I had to think about how I was actually doing it, but getting to hear that you wanted me to come made me feel good. He flushed and had to break the fragile eye contact made. Well, hey, I'm always happy to see more people who can appreciate a big girl. Yeah, I wish there were more VTubers my size, but like, whatever. I like my figure. I'm not gonna make people who don't like the idea of being my size be my size, though. You're a BBW too? Ah! I need to follow. I need to follow back. Eh. Oh, this is going to be awkward to do midstream. Oh! Oh, a BHM. Okay. Okay. Oh! Awesome! That is so cool. Like, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words at how happy I am about this chance encounter. Where is the? How do I do a follow through this screen? There we go. Doing me a follow right back. Ah, you're fine. It's not a big deal. Yeah, cute moment with cute soft boy. Normally I only care about cute girls, but like, Cove is an exception. I have a handful of exceptions to liking only girls and NBs, but Cove is definitely very firmly in there. He flushed and had to break the fragile eye contact made. I want to keep doing things with you no matter what, even if I feel weird sometimes. I don't want to stop being there. I don't want you to stop wanting me there. Because when I do whatever it is for real and you're with me, it all feels better in the end. It always does. Aww. Sweet little 13-year-old. Man, it's a good thing this story doesn't just take place at one point in your life. Because things would be a lot more awkward if he was 13 at oldest in the game. Anyways. Go stood up without warning. Support gone, you threw out an arm to catch yourself from toppling over. At that point, you didn't have much choice but to join him on your feet. You tilted your head in an unspoken question. Ah! Ah! Thank you. Eh. Cove smiled awkwardly, brushing some grass off the side of his pants.
Wanna dance with me?
Yes. You already danced with me. I didn't think you had a good time. It's a dance party, right? And I think... He trailed off, brow furrowed, as if he was trying to figure out the answer himself. Nodding slowly, he continued. A little bit! I think I want to dance with you again before it's over. Aww. With the only words he had to explain gone, he just held up his hand to you. His expression was soft. Excuse me. Bleh. Bleh. You nod quietly. Then you reached for his hand and took it in yours. You returned hand in hand, with the party reaching the end of a long evening. Dancing couples had become scarce. One pair among many were hard to notice, but now the space around you would act as a spotlight. Not that there were many left to watch you. Oh. Ah! Receiving pets. Oh, come on, there we go. Ah! He was still at ease, even buoyed by the dissipating crowd. Ah! Now, hey now. I've let you get some out for free, but you're gonna pull stuff like that, you're gonna have to pay the bookmarks for a compliment. Redeem. He was still at ease, even boy, but yeah, this time there was a spring in his step as he walked onto the dance floor together. I need all the bookmarks I can. I am constantly losing bookmarks. That's why that's my currency. Really need to get someone to do an image of a bookmark. Anyway, Cove kept holding hold of the hand you had given back to him on the little hill. Remembering your earlier attempt at dancing, he placed his free hand on your waist all on his own, though still with a touch of trepidation. Cove hesitated while you waited for a sign. With the song in progress, before you'd stepped out to dance, there was no signal for the right moment to begin. The same thought occurred to Cove, who shrugged his shoulders with keeping form. Taking that as your starting point, you cautiously began to sway. Cove readily followed your example. You danced wordlessly, dimly aware of the music guiding you. You were more focused on Cove, whose attention was firmly fastened on you. Aww. Unlike before, when he had nervously looked down at his feet as if trying to keep them in check, his eyes were steady. Oh, I feel a burp, but it won't come out. Oh, that's the worst. Ah, that's the worst. I will drown it out. Whoa, hey now. That's a little forward there, buddy. I appreciate the sentiment though. That's very sweet. He didn't even allow himself to be shaken when your knees knocked against each other and you both briefly fumbled your steps. Instead, he chuckled, and it was as soft as the roll of the morning tide. His lips curved into a shy crescent. You'd been drifting into a dreamlike state, but that expression, one that you'd never seen before, pinned you back to reality. Your heart was caught in a clinch, held tight, and yet straining with the effort of thumping harder than it had after any amount of physical exertion. Ah. As if in response, his hand began to hold yours with increased strength. He pulled you ever so slightly more towards him. Thoughts about what it meant or what might happen when it was over eased, and the both of you were able to simply have this dance. Ah, that's sweet. Time fell away as you took in the small moment. All too soon, the song reached its conclusion. You could have continued quite contentedly for some more time. You stilled one of your hands in his. Cove showed no sign of moving either. It was hard to let go. You heard your name called out, and that brought the dance truly to an end. You both spun to find Mom yelling for you in Cove. Beside her, Ma was shaking her head.
Sorry.
It's time to go home, Lonnie. I had to get hold of them somehow. What'd you want me to do, sneak up on them? Her chosen method was admittedly better than that. You still winced at how dazed you'd been when she'd announced her arrival. Cove looked so embarrassed that you seriously worried about him fleeing again. This time, you didn't think he'd stop until he was out of the grounds. Despite Cove's reaction to the scene with your moms, to you it had been a perfect ending to the evening. You were so glad you got a chance to dance with Cove once more before the night was over. And it definitely was over now. You didn't need to say anything to Cove. The two of you marched wordlessly over to your parents, who were still bickering playfully. Standing shoulder to shoulder, your parents surveyed you and Cove. You wondered if they were checking that they were returning Mr. Holden's son in the same state that he'd left the house. Maybe a little fuller than when he left, because we did have foods.
So,
That was quite a night, huh, gang? Wasn't it just? Cove managed a self-conscious smile. Yeah. Ma was smiling too, with an expression so soft it could have cradled a newborn chick.
Well,
And how was your very first date? Please don't start on them already. It technically hasn't even ended yet. Fine, fine. Good. Well, we better ready ourselves to get back to Elizabeth. If we're lucky, the house might still be standing.
Ham.
Oh, shush. She swatted your mom playfully, laughing at the comment. You cast one last look at the party. You saw people exchanging farewells and suppressing yawns. Most of the faces were happy ones, despite the weariness that was starting to creep in. Cove's head was angled away from you. As you watched, wondering what he was looking at, he came around to meet your gaze. It was strange, though it had only been a few hours of your life. You felt a little older as a result of attending the party. It was like a step away from the world of your childhood, where dressing up is reserved almost exclusively as a form of play, towards something new that you hadn't yet grasped. Turning away Wait. Okay, this is... Turning away from the final moments of the party, you shelved that thought for another time as your moms eagerly led the way back to the car. As you and Cove tailed after them, you felt childlike once more. Holy crap! My elbow. That one moment took friggin' almost an hour and a half. I suspect we're not getting through much of step 2. Ugh. Save, just careful. Ugh. Alright, I usually don't go this long if I'm taking a break this early, but I don't know, something about the way that moment hit, I needed to decompress a little. I will be back in, let's say, around 15 minutes. Just roughly speaking. And I hope to continue to see you all after the break. Hello! Sorry that took even longer than I said. Sorry, kind of spaced out for a second there. Uh, anyways, let's get back into it. Let's try the wave. The family shopping trip had lasted most of the morning. You still had to unload everything from the trunk before you could go enjoy the afternoon. You cradled another bag in your arms as you headed towards your house. It was one of the heavier bags from the grocery store, loaded with fresh apples, ripe tomatoes, a bunch of carrots, and even half a watermelon. Ma came out the front door and paused just ahead of you.
It's no trouble.
Need any help with that, Diana? I can bring you the rest of the way if you want me to. Yes, please. It would be helpful. Ma stepped forward to take the bag from your arms, and you made a quick run to get another bag. You passed Ma again on your way back to the house, and she gave you an encouraging grin and rustled her fingers through your brown hair. Oh yeah. You set the bag next to on the counter. Your older sister began to root around inside for the contents with a sigh. How much is left? Still a few more bags. With a huff and a puff, Elizabeth continued putting away the groceries, and you retreated out of the kitchen before you could become the target of her bad mood.
Be careful.
Careful, Diana. You hadn't been looking where you were going, and bumped right into Mom, almost stepping on her toes to boot. Whoops. Sorry. I can give you a pass this time, but be sure to watch where you're going. If you run into the wrong person, you might get your license revoked. Is that a car joke? Feels like it's a joke on driver's license in cars and... Bleh. Bleh. Outside, Ma had started organizing what remained and putting back any loose objects that had fallen out during the trip. When you stepped up to the trunk beside her, she took in a big breath of air, her dress gently swaying around in the breeze.
It's a shame.
It's a shame we had to spend the morning cooped up in that shopping center. It's a beautiful day, don't you think? You tilted your head to the sky, gazing at the clear blue expanse. I like it when it's stormy the best. You thought of the past winter, remembering the nip of cool air that would travel off the sea. It didn't snow in Sunset Bird, but being wrapped up in bed listening to the thunder and lightning gave you a certain sense of peace. Uh, I prefer, like, heavy rainstorms, personally. Thunder and lightning give me a bit of anxiety. Yes, even though I'm 30. I'm impressed you can enjoy something like that. It's a good way to think. You smiled at her, turning back to the trunk to help out with the last of the bags. Oh, hi, Cove. You notice Mom wave over at Cove, who just exited his front door, his surfboard propped up under one arm. Let me see, surfboard and wetsuit. Where might you be off to on this beautiful day? Cove instantly startled, not having realized your family was also out there. Even though your mom was the one who called out, you were the one he looked at. Because of course. He tried to settle down again. He jogged across the pavement to properly say hello to you and your parents. It was decidedly awkward since Cove had trouble figuring out how close to stand to you. The addition of his unwieldy surfboard made the whole thing even clumsier. Careful with that thing, you'll put someone's eye out. Mom chuckled and got a whispered reproach from Ma for it.
Pam.
Pam, please, go easy on him. Cove winced. Sorry, Mrs. Shelley. Don't mind her, honey. It's a beautiful day for surfing. I haven't been out on the waves in a long time. I'm jealous. Yeah, I'm hoping to get a few good waves before it gets dark. Hi, Cove. He had relaxed a lot when Ma spoke to him, but the rigidity came back as soon as you said something.
Hey.
Hi, Diana. Cove managed to grin, and it almost felt like you had butterflies in your stomach. Do you want to come hang out there later? You noticed the flush of red on his cheeks, but that might have just been from the heat. Oh, yeah, I could do that. Cool. When he spoke again, he tried to contain some of the excitement that was clearly ready to burst. It'll be fun. You're not done unloading, right? Can I help?
No.
This is our job. You go enjoy the beach. Diana can catch up as soon as she is finished here. Alright, I'll see you. Yeah, bye for now. Cove headed down to the beach with more skip in his step than normal. It was really cute. You smiled softly to yourself at the thought that you'd be joining him soon. He sure seemed to perk up after you agreed to meet him there. I wonder why that could be. Ma! Now who's giving him a hard time, Lonnie?
Josh?
It's different. Mom's face broke into an incredulous grin. In what way? I'm being supportive, and he can't hear it. Mom full on laughed that time.
Lonnie.
You're the worst of us when it comes to this, honestly. I keep trying to warn people, but they won't listen. I don't want to help. I think it's fair to say he might need it. Meddler, but you have a point. Right? You narrowed your eyes at their teasing, and they simply chuckled conspiratorially before taking more bags from the trunk and heading inside. Once everything had finally been taken in and put away, you got yourself ready to meet Cove at the beach. You weren't sure what you were going to do. He was surfing and you didn't know how. You said the same thing to your parents, and while Ma laughed a little, Mom gave you a smile.
Well,
You'll just have to go there and see what happens. Cove must have been so excited to invite you there that he forgot you don't surf. Or he's hoping you'll go watch him so he can show off. Oh yes, I used to do that. I know, hon. I experienced Diana's situation firsthand. I was stuck on the shore too. You noticed what I was doing. Yes! And after really the very first time, it's not a subtle move. Excuse me. Ah. How embarrassing. I was so impressed.
oh,
Thank you. Wow, Ma.
hey.
What are you still doing here? Go on, have your fun. You're only young once, but don't do anything I wouldn't have. Okay. At your parents' prodding, you hurried to leave the house and head down to the beach. When you arrived at the shore, you were greeted by the crash of waves and the soft call of seagulls. You took in a lungful of the ocean air and felt your pale skin warm in the sun. You noticed a small setup nearby with a towel, some sunscreen, and a bottle of water. It must be Cove's. Gee, I wonder how I arrived at that conclusion. You spotted Cove himself nearby. He hadn't gone out to sea yet. He was just sitting in the sand at the water's edge, his board propped up beside him. You strolled up beside him. Hey, I'm here.
Diana.
He looked up at you with a smile and quickly hopped to his feet. I was wondering if you were still coming. I wouldn't have missed it. He chuckled shyly at your insistence. Okay. Then he cast his eyes out towards the waves. I'll stay here and watch you surf. Someone's being an asshole and revving up their car way too loud. Sounds like they might have cut the muffler off. Because they're a prick. I'll stay here and watch you surf. Oh. You were ready to spread out your towel and take it easy. I don't have to go out. I'll stay with you on the shore. Or if you want, you could use one of my other boards. I could teach you. I knew that much, right? I was the one who always promised to show you about surfing. True, he's offered that opinion to you for pretty much as long as you've known him. You were touched, he remembered. I mean, I've always been a little interested in learning. You wanted to try surfing. I'll do it. Let's surf. Cool. It was settled. Cove left up the shore and then returned with an extra board under his arm in no time at all. You paddled out into the sea to where the good waves were. The water was cool against your skin.
It's nice.
Not too calm, but nothing crazy. It looks perfect today. He smiled at you and you couldn't help but smile back. You felt totally content. until Cove kicked the water a little too hard and inadvertently splashed you. Hey, sorry. The apology did not come across as especially repentant, as he was practically laughing when he said it. You splashed him back. You laughed but waited for an opening for revenge. The second he looked away, you kicked back, spraying him.
Seriously?
Is that any way to treat someone trying to help? I came out here to teach you, and I was just following your example. Cove tried to keep a straight face, but ended up looking away. The water you flicked at him landed in shiny droplets in his hair. Then here's another lesson. He soaked you deliberately this time. He used his full leg, and an impressive current of water hit you in the face. You lost your balance and scrambled to keep hold of the board. You just managed to stay on, but it was close. Cove winced. Are you okay? That wasn't what I was trying to do. I'm fine, but we should do the real teaching. Yeah. He chuckled awkwardly and shook some water out of his ear. With that, Cove started telling you all the tips and tricks of how to stay on a surfboard. He demonstrated both good and bad posture and explained where you needed to put your weight. Like this. You wiggled your body so that you were more in the center of your board. Cove nodded. Yep, just like that. The little lesson continued and... I'm not particularly fit, so... I don't know. You kind of struggled. Cove tried as best he could to help you improve. It was difficult for the both of you to work it out, though progress was made. Occasionally he reached out and touched you to more directly help get positions right. It felt nice. Aww. But if you acknowledged you noticed his touch at all, he would instantly pull away. Since you weren't truly ready for it, Cove never pushed you to start taking on full waves, which meant he didn't either. Instead, he stuck by your side in calmer seas to assist with your practice. There was no disappointment on his face over how things played out. Even if you hadn't reached the point of doing anything real, or any real serious surfing yet, it was still a lot of fun. Many laughs were shared between the two of you. Ah, what an afternoon. The setting sun was visible on the horizon. Every time you look away, it had sunk a little lower. The beach was darkening, but still pleasantly warm. You knew you should get out of the water before it was completely dark in the sea. You rode one last wave to get back to the beach. There you picked up your surfboard and gave it a quick once-over. Cove followed behind you to the shore. He put his board with his other things and grabbed his towel to start drying off. As he ruffled his hair with the towel, you watched the sunset together. The colors were beautiful in the distance, and the shadows around you deepened. There was no need for words between you two, as you both enjoyed the sight for a moment. Cove broke the silence. The waves were good today, I think. I guess. He nodded mildly. You chatted a little more until the conversation truly died out, and all you heard was the rhythmic sound of waves. Then Cove sighed. The day can't be over, not yet. He scowled into the distance, as if the sun exiting the sky was a personal offense. Don't you think it should be longer? Personally, I'm more of a nighttime gal, but... yeah. Not playing exactly me. Cove stood up straight in defiance of the approaching darkness. I'm not gonna go home yet. I want to go somewhere. I don't know. Cove was still dripping in seawater. Or salt water, rather. Same difference. So you weren't sure what the alternative was. Wetsuits were fine for the beach and not much else. It wasn't a good idea for him to lug his surfboard around town either. Yeah, I want to do something too. Cove nodded with a smile. Then he looked down the shore with wide, shining eyes. There's at least one place that's always okay to hang out in no matter what time it is. The park. You nodded. The park was virtually always empty. Even Elizabeth only went over there nowadays if she was looking for you. How times have changed. She used to be so protective of the place. In fact, the only person there was a chance of running into might be that Jeremy kid again. You brought the idea up to Cove, and he cringed, but I'm still going. The sun is still there, a little. I'm staying out as long as it is. You tagged along. Okay, let's go. Cove took a minute to put his stuff in order. He made sure to get it all, though he didn't take much care to shake the sand off. You dealt with your own things. You took time to pack your bag. The two of you finished at about the... What? I guess if I have much less stuff. As a final touch, Cove plucked his glasses off the beach and put them back on his face. He looked more like himself now. He led the way down the beach to the park. It wasn't far, so it didn't take you long at all. The sun still hadn't completely disappeared just yet when you made your arrival. Excuse me. Cove stuck his surfboard upright in the sand and tossed his towel over top. By now, the two of you were mostly dry. The summer breeze on your skin kept you pleasantly warm. Cove idly went over to the monkey bars. He grabbed them, feet flat on the ground, and pretended to go across. He had definitely grown in the past few years. You had also outgrown the monkey bars. You are way too tall to play on them properly anymore. When he got to a bar in the middle, Cove pulled himself up and through, then sat on top of the bars. His legs dangled off the side of the bar he perched on. You joined him on the monkey bars. You didn't even have to stretch to pull yourself up. It was a rather tall seat to clamber on, but it worked. Cove scooted over to give you more room to spread out. These monkey bars weren't made for two teens sitting on top of them. Guess what? He smiled broadly and raised an eyebrow. He's not here. Right, it was true. There wasn't a single sign of Jeremy. Looks like it was just going to be the two of you tonight. Cove hung his head and groaned dramatically. Your eyes widened when he whipped his head back up.
No way.
I can't believe how dumb my parents are for forcing me to come to this stupid place. You were taken aback and blinked for a second before you realized he was quoting Jeremy. That's not really nice. Funny, but not nice. Cove tried to look contrite, but ended up chuckling instead. You looked around. The old park, the streets you knew like the back of your hand, and the beach. These were your stomping grounds. You wondered how much Uh, you wondered how Cove actually felt. How much was his joke just a joke, and how much was sincere dislike of this place? Moving had never been his choice. Do you actually like this neighborhood? Do you really have to ask that, Diana? Cove kicked his legs carelessly as they dangled. He smiled softly. I like it here. I really do. It's a nice place. He didn't hesitate. There was no uncertainty. That was his genuine opinion. Yeah. You're the best thing in the neighborhood, Cove. Cove flushed and started kicking his legs wildly like he was running in place. It didn't take long for the day to finally draw to a close. The sun was gone and it was dark. You chatted a while longer, but it was definitely winding down. We better get home. Already? He seemed to just notice how dark it was. It was hard to make out his exact expression with his face in shadow. I guess I lost track of time. Cove sighed. It was the time to go home. He hopped down from the monkey bars with a thump when his feet hit the ground. You clambered down the monkey bars yourself. You lowered yourself more slowly than Cove and barely made a sound when your feet reached the ground. Cove grabbed his surfboard and threw his towel around his neck. Oh, damn it! Excuse me. With his water bottle in hand, he was ready. You both began your trek up the road. Right up the road! It was a quiet night and you didn't run into anyone else. In what felt like no time at all, you would reach your street. As you walked, Cove smiled to himself. It was a soft expression, and you couldn't help but wonder what put it there. Everything okay? I just remembered when we were younger, it used to be such a big deal to come home after dark. You could indeed recall. If you got sandy, your parents would have something to say. If you got wet, your parents would have more to say. And if you came home after dark, well, your mom and his dad better have said it was okay beforehand. You used to need permission for everything. That small comment he made exposed just how much freedom you really had this summer. Cove looked up into the sky, a smile still on his face as the two of you walked side by side, reminiscing. When you came to your houses, you turned to each other. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Thanks for today, Diana. It was nice seeing you. Cove waved and you both turned around to your respective houses. This was a pleasant end to the outing, you thought. That one was significantly shorter. Let's do this one. You looked up, noticing the sun was finally setting. You'd been trying to delay the end of the day for as long as possible. The evening breeze tickled your nose as you sat on your front porch, munching on fresh watermelon slices. I like watermelon, especially when it's been salted and it brings out the flavor. Oh, so good. That's not really as much a thing up here, up north. You picked up another slice. Even though you already had dinner, you were still delighted to make room for watermelon. You turned to look at Cove. You both had been sitting in comfortable silence for a while now. He sat next to you, close enough for your shoulders to touch. Excuse me. He was happily absorbed in his thoughts and his own slice of watermelon. Chuckling, you watched as his face twisted in discomfort. He had to stop chewing to spit a seed into the bush. You did the same and spat a seed into the bushes. The two of you had made a little habit of periodically doing that while you'd been snacking. This time he decided to make it a topic of conversation. I hate how it feels to swallow them, those hard black seeds. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. You both went back to eating in comfortable silence, still occasionally spitting unwanted seeds into the bushes. That's why you use a fork and dig them out. Wonder if I'll have another slice after this one. That one is your third already. Is that bad? Tastes really good. You bumped him with your shoulder. Cove matched your smirk. He gave you a nudge in return. A little while later, Cove flinched, making a confused sound. He slowly put his current slice down on the plate next to him. You okay? Yeah. He stood up, head tilted back to look at the sky. His feet took him to the middle of the street. Did you notice anything? What do you mean? I thought I felt a raindrop. The sun's still out. You put down your watermelon slice and hopped off your front step. Immediately, you felt a tap of water on the crown of your head, making you yelp. You're right! Cove was still staring up at the sky, and you watched as he began blinking more rapidly. When he finally turned in your direction, his face was bemused. It's a sun shower. Huh! That must be a coastal thing. We never had those back in Oklahoma. Not as far as I can remember. I don't know, I spent a lot more time inside than I probably should have. But then I'm a librarian now, so it's not like I can exactly change that. It seemed crazy, but soon you couldn't avoid the drops that began increasing into a light shower. Booming with laughter, Cove kicked off his shoes towards his front door and reveled in the moment. Excuse me. It felt kind of special to you. Something rooted you in place, and you couldn't quite put your finger on any word to describe the feeling. Elated, he was jumping and spinning in the rain. There was also a warmth radiating from him. Then you joined Cove. You ran over to stand out in the street with him. He smiled at your approach and offered you his hand. You took it. You played in the droplets until you were both dizzy, and you laughed until your bodies ached. Just as suddenly as the sprinkling started, it stopped and left you dripping with the smell of wet asphalt and soil tickling your nose. Cove caught your eyes, running a hand through his wet hair, combing it back. He frowned. It's over. Drops of rain clinging to his face almost could have been mistaken for tears. He sounded that disappointed. You were charmed by Cove. There was still a spark of amusement dancing in his eyes from the sun shower, and you couldn't help but smile from ear to ear. What? Nothing, just thinking about how fast you committed to getting soaked. He chuckled bashfully. Yeah, it was pretty cool. You then looked over at your door and sighed. You knew Ma wasn't going to be happy to see you trailing water into the house. Cove rubbed his arm awkwardly. He must have been thinking the same thing, because he watched you sympathetically.
It's okay.
You can dry off in my house if you want. My parents won't mind. You're the sweetest guy I know. Thanks. It's not a big deal. It is. I could already hear my ma's cries over my wet footsteps being all over the halls. Yeah, it would be bad to put a dampener on the day. He chuckled at his little pun. That boy. Cove led you inside and you stayed close to him. We have a ton of spare towels. I've just got to dig them out of the hall closet. I don't think this option really works for me. I mean, I did say that my character is also trans, so it wouldn't not work. But like, I think I'm gonna need to borrow some clothes from you too. Cove didn't have any towels yet, but he came back into eyeshot so you could see him stare at you flatly and roll his eyes. Haha. I'm not joking. It'd be nice to borrow a shirt. He raised an eyebrow and a tiny frown paired with a blush appeared on his face.
I mean...
Oh, I mean, if you're serious, I'm just gonna dry myself off, but I could get something for you. Thanks, Cove. With that, Cove disappeared and returned in no time. He wasn't making eye contact, but had towels in his hand, plus what seemed to be one of his pajama shirts. It was a bright pink color with a dark brown seashell pattern all over. You were certain it looked great on him. So, well, here it is. I hope that works. Thanks. You accepted both a towel and the shirt. You wrapped the cloth around your neck temporarily and took a trip to his bathroom to change. The shirt was old but very soft. You already felt more comfortable just thinking about having it on instead of your current damp attire. You left your shirt over the shower curtain rod to dry, pat yourself down with a towel, and slipped Cove's shirt on. You wrapped your arms around your torso. The change didn't completely fix your predicament, but it was definitely an improvement. Especially since you were lucky enough to be close in size to Cove. It fit you comfortably. And you couldn't deny it was a little bit thrilling to wear a piece of his clothing. You almost couldn't believe it was true. Not wanting to keep Cove waiting, you promptly returned to the living room. He looked up to greet you after hearing you come back down the hall. How'd it go? Is it good? It looks good. What, really? He chuckled with a broken laugh, unsure what the proper thing to say about this kind of situation was. Keeping eye contact was even more of a challenge for him than before. Yeah, it fits. Like it was made for you. Nobody who saw would guess that it's actually, mine. You got the impression that just as you felt some excitement at wearing his clothes, he was having a similar reaction to seeing you in it. Oh my. Thanks, Cove.
You're welcome.
A sudden call got both your attentions. I thought I heard voices. Cove's mom strolled into the living room with a curious grin.
Huh?
What happened here? You're both wet. There was a sun shower. Badass. That is not the reaction I was expecting, Kai. Cove smiled back at his parent. We came inside to dry it off. My moms don't want me going into the house when I'm wet.
Right.
So I told Diana to come back here. That was very sweet of you, baby. She ruffled Cove's wet hair and laughed at the drops of water that shook off. Then a light came to Kyra's eyes.
What do you think?
I have an idea. Why don't we go for a drive? It has to be standing around the house, and you'll air dry in no time. Cove only offered a shrug and a bent smile to his mom. He looked at you for a real answer. I don't know if my parents would want me to. I'm sure it'll be alright, I'll call them. Kyra pulled out her cell phone from her pocket to call your moms. They had swapped numbers early in the summer.
See you soon.
Head on out to the garage, I'll meet you there in just a minute.
Sorry.
Sorry my mom can be so pushy. She gets some idea in her head and that's what she does. That's okay. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't do anything. That wasn't true at all, but you let him get away with that. Come on. Cove led you to the car, and Kyra wasn't too far behind.
Okay.
Into the back, you two. Once the three of you were situated inside, Kyra started and drove out of the residential area. When she hit a main road, the car sped up and she rolled the back windows down all the way. Cove started laughing as he kept trying in vain to keep his hair from flying into his eyes too much. Meanwhile, you closed your eyes as the wind whipped against your wet clothes. I said the city drive was going to be good for getting air dried. Yeah, but I didn't agree to this much air. Cove tried pressing the window button, but nothing happened. His eyebrows furrowed in frustration.
No way.
You disabled the back? Sorry, can't hear you. Smiling deviously, Kyra turned on the radio and turned it up to be heard over the wind. You dance in your seat to the music. You recognize the song immediately. Mouthing along to the words and moving about to the beat felt refreshing. Cove shook his head at you until he cracked a half smile. Slowly he relaxed and bopped a little to the beat of the song himself. Oh no. And then something struck the side of your leg. Several papers were freed from under the car seats and were blown about. Ah! They can't go out the windows! Cove began haphazardly reaching around the space to try and get it all back under wraps. You helped frantically. You jumped to his aid immediately, trying to snatch up every single paper crashing around within your reach. As much as you both caught fistfuls, there was no stopping a few that got sucked out the windows. Cove gasped. Mom, close the windows! Kyra offered no response other than a chuckle. She kept driving. The both of you had sour looks at that. We got most of them. I know. Thanks. The sun set completely, and at that, Kyra rolled up the windows, Cove let out a big sigh, and released the random bits of paper he had in his fists. My mom is crazy. He ran a hand through his wind-blown hair and laughed with a bit of exasperation. You didn't know what was happening anymore. After all of that, you wondered what was going to come next, biting your bottom lip. Cove watched you with interest until his focus was taken by a new comment from his mom. I bet you're not feeling damp anymore. No, but now I feel tricked. You could tell by his tone that at this point his complaints were more performative than serious. You spotted Kyra looking at you both for a moment in the rearview mirror, smiling. You sat with Kyra. She didn't say she was taking us on a drive to air out, and that's what happened. Precisely, Diana. Kyra continued driving. The radio volume was adjusted for the closed windows, and everyone was sitting more comfortably. Kyra lowered the sound even more after pulling into a red light. She took the chance to turn around. You caught into her coy smirk.
So?
Does anyone know what we drove past during the dry cycle? I'm not sure I want to. A movie theater. Okay. Most places have one somewhere. It isn't that late, you know. We can probably still catch a show.
What?
Really, Mom? We don't even know what we'll be playing.
Come on.
That's what makes it fun. Aren't my moms expecting me back soon? Gotta make our parents worried. Don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating impulse behavior every day, but it's important to seize the moment when you can. We might never have another night like this. Don't worry, Diana. I said I'd watch over you for the night. Not just 10 minutes or so. I'll put your parents in the loop about hitting the movies as soon as we get there.
That's,
I didn't bring any shoes. I'm not wearing any either. You lifted your foot up and wiggled your toes so Cove could see. How are we gonna get inside barefoot? We can't. We'll sneak through quick. No one will notice. You can do it just this once. You shared a look with Cove. It was comforting that at least you were on this wild ride together. Kara drove into the theater parking lot and shut the engine off. With the unbuckling of her seatbelt, she ushered you and Cove out. Despite being hesitant to leave, Once outside, Frack! Cove burst into a sprint towards the cinema. You were right along with him. The tarmac was still wet from before and cold to stand on with bare feet. Inside, you noticed there were no lines. All the current shows had already started. Kyra paid that no mind strode up towards the counter with some words of encouragement. A third of the running time is as these days. We haven't missed anything. Meanwhile, Cove stood next to you awkwardly. He shifted from one foot to the other and constantly kept looking around. His shady behavior would have made him much more likely to get caught than standing still would have if there were people around to really notice. It was pretty goofy. You teased him over it. And I thought you loved being barefoot. Outside. Well, on the bright side, I bet you'll never forget about your shoes again, huh? Never. Will you? Probably not. Eliciting a sigh of relief out of you, Kyrie returned with the tickets in hand. She quickly herded you and Cove towards the showing room. I am so sorry for the little hiccup, but hold on. We've almost made it home free. Once we sit down, it'll be smooth sailing. Bah. The lights were already off in the showing room, but the movie hadn't started yet. The upcoming movie trailers were still playing.
Aha!
Yes! Keeping her volume in a hushed tone, Kyrie couldn't help but burst with excitement over your luck. You followed her down the walkway until she spotted open seats in the middle-ish area of the theater. Kyra pointed at the seats, looking over her shoulder at you and Cove, waiting for input. Cove nodded, and you decided to give her a thumbs up, and she led the way. When you reached your seats, Kyra sighed contentedly. Cove gave a sigh of his own and lifted his feet to sit crisscross as if keeping them down on the floor. That boy. He then leaned over and whispered to you.
So,
Do you have any idea what the movie is? No, I didn't hear the name or anything when your mom bought the tickets. Oh boy. After a couple more previews, the main event began. It dawned on you quickly that it was a horror film. One about a group of students being haunted by dangerous ghosts. I can't do horror movies. Unless they're like psychological horror. I like psychological horror, actually, quite a bit. But like, I don't know, the closest thing to a genuine horror movie that I really, really like is like the original Tremors. Tremors is fucking fantastic. You were terrified. The movie was only starting and you were already petrified. You hated it. Glancing over at Cove, you noticed that he looked less than thrilled with the movie. He bit down on his bottom lip and stared at the screen with trembling eyes. Cove had never been a fan of ghosts or intentionally frightening things. That was something you learned about him early on. You covered your ears. It was getting too intense for you to handle. You felt a slight nudge after you had begun shutting out the movie. Cove seemed to have noticed it right away. He watched you with an unspoken question written all over his face. Will you be okay? No. His face grew firm and he mouthed something you couldn't make out. Then he did something you could understand. He got up from his seat. Cove gestured for you to do the same and you obliged. You both began to shuffle down the aisle. At some point, Kyra must have realized what was happening as well, because in only a couple minutes, the three of you were standing outside again. Mother and son looked at you apologetically. It made you uncomfortable, but Cove spoke to ease out the atmosphere. This was a bad idea.
Come on.
I think you're on the money, baby boy. Movie making is a lost art anyway. Let's hit the road. No, there are plenty of good movies. It's just... I'm a wuss. I'm a wuss. I don't like scary. At least not, like... I hate slasher movies and stuff that relies on, like, shock factor and stuff. Like, if there was... I like stuff that is like Lovecraft, but less racist. I think is a good way to put that. Preferably not racist or any form of outright bigoted through analogs and such. But, like, there are plenty of good movies out there. Just not many horror movies that agree with me. That was good with you. You had been scared and worried sitting in that theater, but in the end, Cove backed you up and you didn't have to go through with it. You hugged him. You were so glad you could count on him to be there. It wasn't possible to stop yourself from throwing your arms around him. He returned the embrace carefully. You stood together in the parking lot like that for a brief moment. I really didn't want to see it. I know, it's okay. Cove gave you a reassuring smile and that was that. Both you and Cove took the same seats in the back of the car again. Even though it was late, Kyra was trying to keep things light. We can safely say that was a bust. I'm really sorry, Diana. I should have asked if there were any off-limit genres. I think I have some making up to do. Who wants dessert or just some regular food? What? You were surprised when you realized Kyra wasn't on the way home, but turning into a drive-thru burger restaurant. McDonald's! You nodded. That's the spirit. Get whatever you want. Hamburger, chicken sandwich, French fries, chicken nuggets, mozzarella sticks, a soda, and a chocolate chip cookie. God, why do I always end up getting options to pick foodstuffs? I get hungry easily. Heck you. Friggin'... That's everything. Is that alright?
Of course.
It's A-okay. Cove was tickled by the size of your list and had no disapproval over it. Kyra pulled up to the window and ordered what you asked for first. She then decided to order one of everything on the value menu. Whoa, what are you gonna do with all of that? Eat it!
Really?
The whole menu? Even after Diana picked most of that already? Don't fat shame me. Don't fat shame me, Cove! That's right. There are only maybe 10 things on it, and they're about $1 each. I can swing it, and besides, whatever we don't finish, I'm gonna feed your dad. He'll be in heaven. Cove sighed affectionately at his mother's antics. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A few minutes later, Kyra exchanged her money for multiple bags of food, which she quickly tossed to you both in the back seats. She then drove off into the night. Can you pass me something? What should I grab? Surprise me! You chose one of the wrapped sandwiches and handed it to her. You had no idea if it was a burger or something else.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Accepting that this was what was happening, Cove shrugged and started pulling food out of the bags for himself. Cove ended up with some onion rings and he happily munched on them. You made sure to grab something you liked, because I'm a picky eater. Kyra's crazy ride just kept going. You had to wonder if this night would ever end. The adventure continued, and you were so preoccupied in the back that you almost didn't realize the car had stopped. Kyra turned to look over her shoulder. Okay, party people, it seems we've reached the end of the road. Confused, you checked out the window and saw nothing except empty road ahead. Then you noticed it. The now leaving sign. Kyra took you through the entire town. What are we doing here? Kyra turned the car around and parked it along the side of the road. I think you both could use a break to stretch your legs, and I doubt anyone is going to come through here this time of night. Besides, I need to make a call, so go on. Cove shook his head and got out of the car without a fight. You followed Cove. My elbow. You got out and caught up to Cove, who was busy looking at the stars and stretching his arms while he strolled around. You felt worried. Your mom said things, so you were fine, but I just don't know. Do you think my mom's will you mad? Maybe? But definitely not at you. He answered immediately and honestly enough that you believed him completely. You could tell by his expression that he felt bad. At least your mom has been calling them. Yeah, your parents have more rules than my parents, but they're not really mean. Shortly after, you noticed Cove's expression changed. His eyebrows furrowed. It seemed like he was thinking hard about what he wanted to say next.
I'm so sorry.
Diana, I am really sorry for my mom being crazy tonight. She isn't always like this, seriously. Why is she being like this now? I think she feels like she has to get out there and do things with me while she can, and she wants to make the time memorable. This visit has been really different than the others, and it didn't start off good. Thinking about how Kyra's trip began this summer, you can understand why Cove was thinking along those lines. She probably wanted all the trouble to be worth it in the end. Are you having a good time with your mom around? Yeah, it's still weird having her and Dad in the same house, but I love her. She's my mom. I like hanging out with her most of the time. It went silent between you both, so you jumped when you heard the sound of a car door closing. Cove, Diana. You turned to see Kyra by the driver's side, waving. The sight brought a smile to Cove's face, and she quickly made her way over to where you both were standing. Thanks for waiting. I didn't mind.
My baby.
How did I end up with such a polite boy? She ruffled his hair and Cove lowered his head, accepting the compliment. He thought about how interesting it was to see how Cove interacted with his mom. And then the memory hit you. That first summer, Cove ran away to this very spot trying to find his way back to his mom. And now here they were, together. Aww. You said it out loud. Hey, Cove. This is where you went to try seeing her when you moved to Sunset Bird. Do you remember?
Huh?
What does that mean? Cove gaped at you, and it became clear that his mom hadn't known about that adventure. You came here to see me. Kyra's eyes grew large as the words fully sunk in. I heard you wanted to visit, but no one said you actually tried to do it on your own. Never mind, you made it all the way through the entire town. Cove hung his head in shame. Even in the dark, there was no mistaking how weird red his face was burning. Oh, it's alright, little man. She started rubbing his back soothingly. It's definitely too late to punish you for it. I'm just glad you ended up being fine. This is an impressive distance for such a tiny guy to travel. While Kyra spoke to him positively, there still seemed to be something sad to her tone. I hope you never feel like you have to run away again.
Sorry.
I don't want to run away anymore. Don't worry. She offered him a small smile. You apologized to Cove. I'm sorry, Cove. I shouldn't have just said that. It's okay. I should have said something myself before. Kyra let out a big breath of air. We should probably call it a night, huh? You felt disappointed it was actually over. You had kind of hoped some other unexpected thing would pop up to keep things going. Kyra smiled shyly and gestured to the car. Quietly, you all made your way back to it. Cove naturally followed you, taking the seat nearby in the back with the collection of fast food bags still strewn about. You rested your head into the seat as the car roared to life. As you did, Cove leaned in closer to whisper,
Hey.
I can talk to your moms if they do get mad about it tonight for some reason. It was my mom's idea. You didn't have a choice. Thank you. You're welcome. Also, don't worry about bringing the shirt back when we get home. Just keep it. Until tomorrow? He simply shook his head. Your face went warm. He was giving it to you. You were at a loss over this. Cove smiled softly at you, but said nothing else. The drive home was smooth and uneventful. The radio was off completely, and you felt your eyelids getting heavy. Oh. I was doing that thing again. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There we go. You were too tired to keep your head up, and it felt quite comfortable there. Cove didn't have any issues there. He leaned into it. Excuse me. He must have been exhausted too. You were happy to stay close like that. It was warm and comfortable. Excuse me. When you opened your eyes, you expected to still be in the car, not your bedroom. It was somehow already morning. You couldn't remember how you ended up there. Sitting up in bed, you thought about how last night was quite an experience. It would almost have felt like a dream if you weren't still wearing the shirt Cove had let you take. It definitely happened. And you were glad that you got to have a spontaneous escapade this summer. uh, oh, I think I might have to call things a little early today. I'm really sorry, everyone. I'm suddenly not feeling so hot. I'm gonna go lie down for a little bit. Whatever just happened in my chest, it's messing with my head a little bit. I will hopefully be back tomorrow with more of this. I hope to see you all then. And until then, bon lecture.